The Ministry of Timelines bears no official responsibility for the content of this research. We record the Belbos timeline to have diverged 4,300 years before the present day. Contamination of this timeline makes it difficult to determine if prior divergence also occurred, but the Ministry continues to investigate this possibility. This record has been compiled from contemporary sources extracted directly from the timeline, though it does include some assumptions on the part of the Ministry. At the end of the Second World War, the human race began a program of prolific nuclear weapons tests. The impact of a nuclear detonation is detectable from light years away. Unfortunately, in this case, they were observed by a power whose rigidity was the only force delaying the inevitable for humanity. Had the human race known, they might have spent their time very, very differently. As the 21st century marched onwards, the Earth matured into a modern, stable world. The human race began to fix the problems of their past: war, disease, climate change. As the people of Earth finally began to cooperate and reason, as humanity built for a common future, they arrived. On October 3rd, 2052, alien vessels entered low Earth orbit without warning. They loomed high above the world for 30 days, silently. The ships ignored every communication attempt made by the people below. Then, without warning, on the 31st day after their arrival, they began to broadcast. They called out on every frequency and used every language. Their message was clear.
Welcome. After your long night in the dark, we are here. You are our wayward sheep. You are our children. Welcome.
The response from Earth was mixed. Some celebrated, some were terrified. There were parties and there were riots. A hasty session of the United Nations was called. The human race welcomed the aliens down to the surface of their world. Due to the haste of the reception, most world leaders were unable to attend. They ended up being very thankful for that. The official first contact was an unmitigated catastrophe. Contemporary evidence clearly shows that the aliens assassinated the Secretary General within minutes of their arrival, apparently due to a perceived slight, daring to speak out of turn. Casualties were minimal, but did include a large proportion of the diplomats of Earth. Their deaths were broadcast live to the planet, and this footage remains the foundation of our understanding of this event.
You are our children, but rudeness will not be tolerated. Let these humans be an example. Do not interrupt your parents.
They went on to claim that humanity would be dragged, kicking and screaming, out of their nuclear crisis. They would not be allowed to destroy themselves. They would be taught proper manners and etiquette. They would grow up. The governments of Earth did not take too kindly to the perceived alien aggression. Most nations made formal declarations of war within minutes of the assassination of the Secretary General. A smaller number of those nations fired their entire nuclear arsenal at the aliens above. Intercontinental ballistic missiles cut arcs into the sky as the planet held its breath. Unfortunately for humanity, their full nuclear response had little effect on the alien ships in orbit. The alien point defense lasers knocked every missile out of the sky with ease, long before they posed any danger of detonating close to an alien ship. It was a turkey shoot. There was one exception to this. A stray missile managed to collide with an alien troop transport above the historically named Sweden. The nuclear explosion caused the main energy reactor of the ship to detonate. This wiped out all life within a few hundred kilometers and blanketed the entire peninsula in radioactive fallout. The eagle-eyed among you may have realized that I am referring to the Desolus, an area that remained uninhabitable for generations afterwards. Across the rest of the planet, alien ground forces disembarked and attacked any humans that actively resisted occupation. Apart from the one Pyrrhic victory above the Decimus, the Earth's defenders were totally unsuccessful in repulsing the aliens. Even a single alien soldier, armed and wreathed in a protective force field, proved untouchable. Imagine, if you can, the feelings of those early human soldiers, tucked tightly into their metal tanks, firing cannon, that is, kinetic projectiles propelled by use of chemical explosives at distant alien targets. You are confident in the power and supremacy of your technology, expectant that after the smoke clears from your assault, you will have vanquished the enemy, a lone alien soldier. But then, when visual contact returns, the alien looks entirely unperturbed and unharmed. You level shot after shot, having no effect. And when you, trapped in your metal box, your metal tomb, finally gained its attention, you would have mere moments before the alien would stab out with ungodly weapons of fire and light, blasting you into atoms. This engagement scenario was repeated over and over across the world, on land, at sea, and in the air. Every time human forces engaged the aliens, they failed to do anything except destroy the world around them and inflict horrific civilian casualties. There are innumerous surviving records that align with this account of the invasion. One by one, the human governments of the world surrendered or collapsed to the encroaching alien forces. Those that did not fight, that respected their elders, were left entirely alone and unmolested. They began to try and pick up the pieces. Hundreds of millions died from starvation, disease, and a lack of proper sanitation. Though the aliens were judicious in their use of force, they were not cruel or sadistic. Those areas that were destroyed by human weaponry and now fell under alien occupation were rebuilt. The people living there were provided emergency food and shelter. If you did not strike against the aliens, or behave rudely, it turned out you had nothing to fear from them. By the end of the year 2052, no human nation remained. There were still pockets of resistance, of course. Those that did not die in the initial conflict fled deep into mountains, jungles, and forests, supported by the dying embers of human civilization and their militaries. From here they began a campaign of resistance against the invaders. Over time, this loosely organised militia became publicly known as the Anti-Alien Front. The AAF carried out constant attacks and harassment against the occupation and its infrastructure. Under the ever-watchful eye of the aliens, the humans living under alien occupation formed new governments and political structures. Alien legal customs were enforced. Careful not to lose their power and always prepared for new opportunities, leaders of industry and commerce managed to hold on to their wealth and status. The richest of the old world not only retained their power, but by ingratiating themselves with the aliens, they began to expand and cement it. For who else would the world turn to when the aliens requested that Earth begin to industrialize and export new alien goods? From the surviving political class of old Earth and these titans of industry, a new aristocratic elite emerged. By 2066, the AAF had become more and more successful at disrupting human life and human operations. To clarify, the only noticeable effect the AAF had was killing innocent human civilians and disrupting human life. This was an unexpected boon that the alien propagandists exploited relentlessly. Alien technology still proved unassailable to human attacks. Their garrisons, set up in the name of protecting human freedoms, were totally untouched by the AAF aggression. In response, and under strict instruction by their alien overlords, the collaborative governments of Earth set up the Peace Corps, a human secret police force armed and instructed by the aliens to root out, arrest, and disarm the AAF. With public opinion rapidly turning against the AAF, the Peace Corps succeeded in their mission within the span of a few years. This left the collaborative governments as the only expression of human civilization on Earth. Mere decades after the aliens' arrival, Earth had crystallized into a new world. To streamline human-alien relations and follow strict alien protocols, a human was appointed to provide a direct link between the alien civilization, the hegemony of Belbos, and the myriad governments of Earth. This is the officially recognized start of the Sol Satrapy. Crowned as satrap in 2084, Martina Ardiles, an Argentinian native, reigned as military governor of the entire human race. She answered to none but her alien overlords. As the years passed, people forgot. Education was rigidly controlled and prescribed by the aliens. Through education, social programs, and a network of indoctrination protocols, human children were quickly introduced to alien technology, culture, and ideas. The human place in the great familial web of the hegemony was taught and believed. For the humans, along with other satrap races, were the lost children of Belbos. According to the hegemony, the threads of their stories weaved into a great tapestry stretching back millennia. Within a single generation, the culture and technology gap was closed. It is essential to note at this time that hegemony society was held together by a set of texts that, to an external observer, would seem to hold a significance bordering on the religious. These documents acted as a philosophical guide, a legal framework for the hegemony, and a strict schedule for the future of the entire civilization. The closest translation we have for a title to these works was the elucidated reference primer Dominion System of Antecedent Proper Polite Originators, but away from Belbos it was more commonly referred to as the Parent Protocols. By 2088, after rebuilding human society under the direction of the Parent Protocols, the industrial base of Earth was fully turned over to the making of weapons and the construction of warships, all of which were alien in design, but their intricacies and workings were now understood by humans. In 2104, conscription was enforced by the satrap. All human adults would serve a term of no less than 5 years in the imperial military. Humans were taken, used to fill armies and crew warships, as pilots and frontline soldiers, for they were part of the great family of the hegemony, and they had their place in the hierarchy, their role to fulfill. Used as shock troops across the Empire, human soldiers put down rebellions and settled border disputes on unknown worlds with unknown peoples. They were model soldiers in the Imperial military. On Earth, every victory, no matter how small, was celebrated and held up as further proof of humanity's destiny as the bulwark of Belbos. However, behind closed doors, there were some who did not forget old Earth. They remembered the true history and the disparate ideals of their ancestors, not the whitewashed alien ideas force-fed at the whim of their alien overlords. Whilst our research indicates that these individuals were not organized into networks, it is believed that those most likely to harbor anti-hegemony ideas were those with links to the AAF. Finally, in 2178, human officers were given the command of an entire alien armada. They were tasked with welcoming a newly discovered alien race into the Imperial fold. By finally accepting their place in the hegemony and following the dogma of the Parent Protocols, humanity invaded their first alien world. Humanity's fleet waited for 30 days above the planet. On the 31st day, after not receiving the proper response from the terrified natives, they descended onto the unprepared planet. Humans strutted across the surface of this world. Armed with alien weapons and wreathed in alien force fields, they were untouchable. Quickly, they brought its population to heel, only killing those that attacked them or refused to obey the niceties of the protocols. To the officers of the fleet, they realized that they had become the fist of oppression, though the rank and file serving in those armies called it a mercy. They believed they were bringing the gift of civilization to the indigenous. As the 22nd century drew to a close, events were unfolding on the distant imperial capital that would have seismic implications for the people of Earth. Upon the rise of the 51st Emperor Shaddam VI, they were bequeathed new freedoms, counter to the strict dogma of the protocols. All of the satrapies were, hundreds of years before the proper preordained time. As the throne moved counter to the protocol, the hegemony became mired in political infighting and a tumultuous succession crisis. And so it was that the satrapies experienced their first taste of freedom and self-determination. Would the people of Earth regain their liberty, or would the hegemony reign supreme? This concludes our analysis of the pre-explorative age for humanity in this timeline. Please refer to the next chapter of this report for further details on the Belbos timeline.